where do we go now? Where do we go now? Where do we go? I'll tell you, where do we go? Mr. John Corzine, MF Global, where do we go now? Following another boring day of hemming and hewing, during which Corzine repeatedly exhibited unbearable amnesia and said he had no knowledge of virtually anything until Sunday night, here comes the CME executive, Chairman Terry Duffy, under oath, of course, with what Roberts said, quote, is a bomb statement, which basically says that Corzine lied under oath. Specifically, according to Duffy's remarks during the Q&A, an MF Global employee, a woman, advised the CME that Corzine had been aware of a $175 million loan made to Euro affiliates just days prior to the bankruptcy. A loan which effectively was that of commingled customer accounts. And more importantly, a refutation of a previous statement under oath by the man who was, quote, financial advisor to none other than the Vice President of the United States, who said he did not know about this until late on Sunday. This was not in his prepared testimony. What it was is that transfers of customer funds for the benefit of the firm constitute serious violations of our rules and of the Commodities Exchange Act, end quote. And now we know that according to the chairman of the CME, the MF Global head, Mr. Corzine, scumbag, lied about the timing of the disclosure. And where it gets even worse is that MF Global was well aware of this. It told the CME it knew about the segregated account money, and most importantly, it told the CME to stop looking there because basically stop looking for the segregated account money, because being the firm of Obama's handler apparently makes you equivalent with the law. Continue watching the hearing here. This is from Zero Hedge, by the way. And then it says here from Reuters, an auditor with the CME group was told that former MF Global chief John Corzine knew about loans backed by the customer segregated accounts that were made to a European affiliate of the firm, a CME executive said on Tuesday. The loan was for roughly $175 million. Now, let me roll my windows down so I can see. Man, that one's slow. Come on. So it's interesting when I read that, because this is so incredible. There's been a few little things lately that have made me say, man, that sounds like we're getting ready for a webbot hit, or at least what I used to refer to as what I call a pre-echo, if you will, of something in the webbot report. It's not the actual event, but it's like a pre-echo. It's almost, but no, get ready, it's coming later. And one of those things, by the way, I'll just touch on this for a second because this is a little bit off of the financial side. I'm reading yesterday about these port blockages by these Occupy protesters. They're at the ports. Was it Oakland? Was it Oakland? I forget where it said this was at. West Coast somewhere. And they're blocking port workers from coming and going. They're having a hard time putting stuff on ships to ship out of the country. And I guess vice versa. And I said, oh my God, I read this in the webbot report, like, it wasn't even the latest one, it was the one before that, you know, back in September, I think. That report where it talked about, and again, this isn't the event, of things being so bad in this country, people here starving, and yet companies that are on our soil are shipping food and much needed supplies overseas. And the people here say, bull crap, I don't care if your company, you know, came from China or came from some other part of the world and now has its status or its business, doing business in our country, and you think you're just going to take our farmers' food, even though you paid for it, and ship it overseas. We're coming first. And they start, and there's some interesting chain of events that will end up taking place when that happens. And there may even be like a shootout or something, if I remember. I don't quite remember the details. But that was one thing, and I just read that. Not quite there yet, obviously. That's not the event. But man, why are these protesters blocking a port? Why aren't they in front of some financial institution or Wall Street or down in some city like they always do, downtown? They decided to go to a port. Oh, I hadn't heard that one yet. And then I'm looking at these pictures and reading it. Man, this is a pre-echo of much worse to come of the same similar type of thing. So that's one thing. Now this other thing, you've got CME Group, you've got an employee, from what I just read you off my phone, employee of MF Global, basically spilling somewhat of the beans, saying basically John Corzine did know about these. Matter of fact, a loan was given out just days in advance using those customer segregated funds. They call them segregated simply because these are funds that are what the exact definition is, segregated. They are in a whole nother account area. You can't touch them. They're segregated. They're not with these funds over here, which are your company funds. That's why they use that term so frequently, just so you know that's what they mean. There's not even an accidental way that you could have mixed those funds, is what the whole gist of this is. So that now we have someone who worked for, prior to bankruptcy, MF Global, and I'm not talking about John Corzine, but an actual, they said a lady employee, didn't name her name, basically just threw a bombshell out there on, as a matter of fact, a literal bomb on John Corzine's lap, so to speak, and kind of exposed him there for lying under oath and affirming that in fact customer account money was sent overseas. Now they're saying it was in the form of a loan, but I read another thing last night that was saying more testimony has said that he did in fact, they were basically gambling, so to speak, over in Europe on those bonds, and it was an epic fail and they lost it. So naturally that's where your money went. If you know you have an open contract on the market betting on some stock, bond, treasury, whatever commodity, and you lose, your money's gone instantly. So that's what must have happened, you know. And I was saying to myself, well, maybe they did this on purpose, and I even said this in the video, maybe they did this on purpose so that there couldn't be a lot of deliveries of gold and silver. They had to stop the deliveries being called for on December's you know, whatever, gold and silver. There was other commodities too, but, and that's plausible that maybe that was part of it, and they just had to do that. But now that you take a closer look and you see people who work now at MF Global, this guy at the CME, Mr. Duffy, it does kind of appear that there's a little infighting, as predicted by Lindsey Williams, as also predicted by the Webbot long ago. There would be infighting between the groups, the factions, whatever you want to call them, of the elite. And most importantly, the recent, very recent Webbot report, which was released not this Monday, a few days ago, but the Monday before that, long before John Corzine, all these MF Global people, the CME, were at the level they're at now, saying the things they're saying now. So there's no way the Webbot, he could have saw these things being written and talked about and then decided to do his summary on the Webbot and then release it later to say, hey, look, I knew about some of these things. Wrong. Webbot called it first. What are you talking about? Jay Snip, what the hell are you talking about? Called what first? Called the infighting, and he was very specific, and I even read it in my summary, I believe, pretty sure, of the Webbot report just the other day, about these people that become, quote, disgruntled employees, if you will, And he says you got to understand the difference between a normal, you know, he didn't write in these words, but this is what he said. There's disgruntled employees, and then there's an elitist who has minions under them working. In other words, John Corzine, the minion elitist, or the elitist, and then under him, his minions, and under them, other sub-minions who really aren't quite considered minions, but they know he's doing stuff illegally. They know they're not supposed to be doing that, but hey, I got a freaking 6-figure paying job, free car, for whatever, you know, just benefits out of control, living the good life. I'm able to buy 2 or 3 different houses. I mean, so what if they're cooking the books? So what if they're transferring stuff that were on balance sheet, which is what he did, by the way, in the testimony I read last night, to off balance sheet stuff, and all the reporting they did, MF Global did, which the CME group said, hey, we're the regulator, we just got their paperwork, it looked fine, there was no red flags. Oh, under further investigation, we're now finding what appears to be they took some things, liabilities, on balance sheet and threw them off balance sheet. That's why we weren't able to see this. That's what the CME group, don't point the finger at us. They presented us a package, we investigated, looked at the package, it was fine, no red flags, and then a few days later they went bankrupt. And now we're really investigating, and now that we're taking a fine-tooth comb over these things, we can see they actually moved stuff that was on balance sheet, and should have probably remained on balance sheet, by the way, these liabilities no one knew about, and put them off balance sheet to hide them. Well, isn't that funny? Because that's what all the banks do, that's what all the big financial institutions do, and that's even what countries do, although they don't call it a balance sheet. It's what countries do too. They don't have off and on balance sheets really for a country, but they do. It's just not called that, and it's basically this debt and this stuff that they don't even include in the debt, such as future payments of Social Security, retirement, Medicaid, and other things. You know, that's kind of the stuff you need to add in there. Oh, no, we don't need that. That doesn't count. Oh, okay. So, back to the little webbot thing here. We have a person basically blowing the whistle, dropping a bombshell in Mr. Corzine's lap that used to work for Mr. Corzine and has now probably been fired and let go due to the big collapsing of MF Global, the bankruptcy. They realized my days are over. I'm not going to get a job like this ever again. Again, I wasn't an elitist. I was just a average guy, or maybe a little bit above average guy or girl or whatever, working for this guy at MF Global, knowing that they're doing things not quite to the spec of the law. Yeah, we are commingling customer funds, but they've been doing that for a couple years now, and it's never been a problem before. They always make a bet, they win the bet, and then they put the money back. Customer didn't know any different. Except this time, oops. And now this person who just testified, this female, for example, who worked for John Corzine at MF Global, threw a bombshell out there, which I just explained about this loan to some European, quote, affiliate of theirs. And what if that loan wasn't really a loan? It was, here, take this money to bet on the market over there. Ooh, we lost. Uh-oh. They're calling it affiliate. Really, it was just a trade. I don't know, and I don't care about that, to tell you the truth. The bottom line is she blew the whistle. So as the webbot just said, and I just read it in my summary, that was about an hour long last week, webbot summary, they will be, as Cliff said, it's a little different when you're an elitist and you have minions under you, and those minions are pissed off because they lost their job and now they want to blab their mouth, which will throw you under the bus. It's a little bit different than just Joe Blow losing his job and getting pissed off at his company. And even if he was to blow the whistle, it's a little small-time mom-and-pop shop or a little company. Big deal. Go ahead, blow the whistle. They'll get a little fine locally or something. That's it. This is big. Infighting between the elite and then their own kind. Not necessarily their own kind, but as I said, they work for them. They know things aren't right. But I'm getting paid heavy duty. Man, I can sure look the other way. There's an old saying. I wish I knew the guys where this quote came from so I could give them credit. I've used it before. It is hard for a man to tell the truth when his job depends upon him not telling the truth. Think about that. I'm a big-time scientist. I work on the FDA board or whatever. Man, these big pharmaceutical companies, if I don't pass the test for these guys automatically to let them start shipping off this new Vioxx drug or some other nonsense, I'm not going to be able to keep my job. It is hard for a man to tell the truth when his job depends upon him not telling the truth. Doesn't matter if it's pharmaceutical, doesn't matter if it's just some food, some new GM, genetically modified crop, seed they want to put out. Doesn't matter if it's some new product that's terrible for the environment. It doesn't matter if it will kill you. It doesn't matter if it will rape and pillage your bank account, your retirement. It doesn't matter. It is that same simple phrase. It is hard for a man to tell the truth when his job depends upon him not telling the truth. And I just can't wait to see when the people, because as a matter of fact, I got to end this video with one more thing. And I'm trying to think if I mentioned it in my video yesterday or not. Don't know. There used to be 50-something, 52, in 1982 roughly, there was 50-something odd owners of all the major news and TV networks. Currently, there are now 6 basically Zionist-controlled owners or ownership of all those same networks. 50-something before 1980s to today, only 6. Same little tiny group of hands of people. Everything's consolidated. So you know, when people say, oh, that's such a conspiracy, there's no way all these news channels would not report on something. That's crazy. No, it's not crazy when only 6 people own them, or 6 companies own them. Not anymore. And the other thing was that there was either an amendment or it was added for bankruptcy law. They either added Chapter 15 or maybe Chapter 15 was already there and they amended it. I can't remember, but it was in this article that I printed out. Of course, I don't have it in front of me right this second, so that's why I'm just going off what I remember reading. And this was done in 2004 under Bush, Republican, but prior to him, 1999, Democrat, Clinton. In whatever Congress owns the House, doesn't matter. I don't play that nonsense game. Oh, Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. Under Democrat, Clinton, and the Congress, they got rid of Glass-Steagall. Huge thing. Let these commodities, these banks, just automatically start gambling like crazy, like a casino, basically. Ever since then, and then in 2004 or 5, I don't remember the exact year, 2004 or 5. Again, Bush was still president. Doesn't matter. They added or amended this Chapter 15 bankruptcy law. And the long story short is that you're a big financial institution, right? You're too big to fail. One of the big guys. Well, we're Chase Manhattan. We're J.P. Morgan. We're the largest bank in the world. You know, have a problem, us. But wait, didn't you guys get backdoor bailouts, trillions of dollars? What would have happened if you didn't get those trillions of dollars? Well, we're the big... Oh, you would have fell like the too big to fail giant who fell and then couldn't get back up again? Yeah, kind of like Humpty Dumpty too. I love people who work for that. Someone talked to my dad the other day that worked at Chase. Oh, we're or J.P. Morgan. We're the biggest bank in America. We're solid. I said, Dad, did you tell her under this new investigation from Bernie Sanders, the senator, $7.77 trillion? I think that was the exact amount. And then, you know, lucky sevens, casino lucky sevens, isn't that funny? 777 trillion. JP Morgan was a huge gobbler up of those funds. Why did they need those funds? Miss, what's your name? Yeah, I know you're reading a script that tells that if anyone questions, you tell them we're the biggest bank in America. We got the most funds, most assets. Why did you guys get $7.7 trillion? Or not 7, all of you, but why did you get $1 trillion or so yourself? Whatever it ended up being. I mean, you're the biggest bank, you have the biggest assets. Why would you need that kind of money? What are you talking about, sir? Well, we just had an investigation in Congress from the Senate, actually, investigative committee, and they've uncovered $16 trillion that the Federal Reserve has lent out to our own banks and other banks overseas. And on top of that, $7 trillion was divided amongst the too big to fail banks here, including J.P. Morgan. Why did you guys need that if you're such a big bank? Could you ask management about that? I'll hold, actually. Can you do that now? Yeah, hold on, sir. Yeah, I'm back. They don't know what the hell you're talking about. Of course not. Because you're a peon, you're a peasant at a company, spewing the lies of that company to all your customers. So anyways, this Chapter 15 bankruptcy thing, amended or added, whatever it was, states, and I'm going to use the most layman phrase here so you understand it. I'm a big bank or financial entity, and I just got in big trouble. I got to file some kind of chapter or something, another bankruptcy. I may choose chapter 15 because there's a nice little subsection that we banks had written back in 2005 that states all you customers, clients that use us, whether you use us for retirement funds, 401ks, banking, whatever the situation, we got your money. And this particular funding isn't FDIC insured. We're going to opt chapter 15. Which means we're going to, all of our assets, everything gets sold off, all the money we have, it gets dispersed. Oh, phew, thank God I'll get something back. No. No. Did you read the subsection under chapter 15? You didn't read that, Mr. Peasant? You didn't read it? No. It says that first in line to get paid are their buddies in their banks. And second in line is their other buddies in other financial institutions who may be debtors to them. Or not debtor, but the lender, whatever you want to call it. They owe, the bank that failed owes them money. We'll just call it, again, we'll leave this simple. And there's another secondary party, again, one of the boys in the club, that they also owe money to. And then third, fourth, and fifth on the line is you stupid peasant bastard. And me. Me too. Except not me too, because I don't play that game. My silver, my retirement is in my safe. I don't care. I keep 1 month's worth of bills in the bank. Big deal. Right? That little subsection allows them to pay their boys off first. And then anything remaining, the scraps, then they'll divide it amongst the peasants. It was created in 2005. So, if that's the case, you know people are going to finally, when this happens, and someone goes chapter 15, and people get furious, it's already law. What are you guys furious about? It's already law. It's already written on the books. Oh, so it's law means it's okay. Not in people's mind who just lost it. They'll go want to kill somebody. But at the same time, and maybe they want to kill some banker, they're going to also say, well, if it's law, clearly this law was written for the freaking banks so that they can give their crony buddies all the money when they go bankrupt and not give us anything. Who the hell introduced this law? What was this senator or congressman's name? Oh, it's this guy. Oh, he's not even a congressman anymore. Oh, and by the way, I didn't look yet to see who wrote this law. And I said, you don't think for 1 second history's going to repeat, because it wasn't the banker that has an agreement with you and me, the peasant. It's the Congress, kind of like a marriage, that has the agreement with you and me. I elected you to represent me and everybody in my state, and in the country for that matter, to do the right thing that any one of us would know to do if we were in your position. But we don't have time as people to do that. That's why you've been elected, right? Wrong. You don't think people are going to figure out who wrote what law, who signed what law, who introduced what law, and how did the vote go on that law? Who voted yes on this amendment to, or this additional Chapter 15 deal? Who also voted to remove Glass-Steagall in 1999? Let's get a list of senator and congressmen's names. And the President, Bill Clinton, had to sign that, of course. And President George Bush, 2005, also would have had to sign that for the Chapter 15 thing. You don't think the average citizen who loses it all and goes crazy in their mind when they realize no one's going to jail, no one's getting handcuffs, you've lost everything you own, your entire life savings, your retirement's gone, you're kicked out of your house, the whole 9 yards, and it's completely legal. You don't think that that person is going to sit back and say, well, since it's legal, I'll just cry and be sad about it. No, they are going to lose their mind and want to kill somebody. And it would only take a monkey to figure out that history shows the people that they definitely kill are Congress or leaders, whatever you want to call them, when things like this happen. They also will go after the banking families and the people who did this. They will do both. And it's funny that I'm seeing this stuff unfold because I'm thinking in my mind, I'm reading this Webbot report about the future to come. And there's some brutal things about banking families and politicians. And one of the reports long ago, I've never read it. It was a very old one. And I don't, matter of fact, I don't know that it was even necessarily in a report or if it was in a long ago audio interview of Cliff High on one of these radio programs where he got into the meaty details. And I said, this is going to be absolutely brutal for the rich people. And I don't just mean some rich guy, you know, just because he's rich. The guys, the boys, the ones at the top, which include senators, congressmen, bankers, financiers, the money changers, whatever you want to call them, money masters. And it's all in this Webart report that I'm reading. I'm thinking, man, what is going to actually trigger that, though, to get people that freaking furious? Man, I think I just read you the very beginning of that today. MF Global. There's going to be more MF Globals. Then there's going to be the Chapter 15 filers. Oh, too big to fail. Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase. Oh my God, the giant has fallen. It's going bankrupt, and it's doing a Chapter 15. Oh, Chapter 15, huh? Interesting. And I don't know. I know it said Chapter 15. What I don't know is that, was it Chapter 15 of another chapter? You know, like subsection 15 of Chapter 11 bankruptcy, or subsection 15 of Chapter 7, or whatever. I think it was an actual chapter, like a new chapter called Chapter 15 bankruptcy. But it was just a small piece of the article. It didn't get into details. But I thought that was very interesting. Just like Hitler, before he really went to rise in his power and started all these disgusting, just despicable things, he had all the laws changed or passed that he needed to make sure he didn't break one law in his country, and that everything he demanded and commanded of his citizens in the army under his control, they couldn't turn back and say, hey, that's a unconstitutional order, or that's an such and such order, I'm not following it. Everything was on a piece of paper. As George Bush said one time, that Constitution's just a goddamn piece of paper. Too bad the troops didn't say that back when Hitler or any other would-be dictator has done the same thing. Oh, it's law, it's passed, it's law. The law says so. A piece of paper in writing says so, so we must follow this law. Well, there's a law now that says your babies can be eaten by the politicians. Come on in, guys. I just had a newborn over here a couple weeks ago. Come on in, eat her. Gobble her up. You know, it's law, of course. Come on in. No. So anyways, this storybook ends, this current storybook ends the same way it has always ended in previous times of massive corruption, the end of the, quote, cycle of then, which is happening now. And coincidentally, right, just a chance in heck, whatever, just a coincidence that the big 2012 cycle that the Mayans talked about, and they didn't just say it's just going to be some destructive cycle and that's it. We've already seen the weather, the earthquakes, the volcanoes, you name it, floods, out of control, breaking records all the time. Weather, cold, breaking record. Next week it's breaking record hot in the same area. I mean, that's impossible, right? Oh, it happened. So besides that, they also spoke about just society in general. The paradigm shift. What is now is not going to be in the near future. But surely people don't just stop and say, hey, we were playing a board game. Let's put the board back into the box and call it quits. We'll start over. No. Because the guys at the top of that board game, oh man, we made it. It took us this long. Our families took hundreds of years to get here. We've got all of our people in power. We can't stop the game now. No, we're at the top. So what happens? Nature, or whatever, the cycle dictates automatically the board game's going back in the box, whether you elitists like it or not. No matter what you think you control, Mother Earth, the cycles, whatever, dictate and guarantee that you are coming down, and you will put that board game away, and a new board game will come out for everybody, and it starts fresh. Everyone starts at the beginning. That is what is going to be taking place over the next several years. I have to go. Have a nice day.